Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Thomas from Pensacola State College Library and Kids College. Today we're going to be reading The Snowy Day, and then we're going to make some sidewalk paint. Before we read our story, now's a good time for a parent or caregiver to grab a couple things for our craft. You'll need some cornstarch, you'll need some food coloring, paint brushes, and then you're going to need some disposable cups and some water. Now let's read our story. The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. One morning, Peter woke up and looked out the window. Snow had fallen during the night. It covered everything as far as he could see. After breakfast, he put on his snowsuit and ran outside. The snow was piled very high along the street to make a path for walking. Crunch, 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 his feet sank into the snow. He walked with his toes pointing out, like this. He walked with his toes pointing in, like that. Then he dragged his feet slowly to make tracks, and he found something sticking out of the snow that made a new track. It was a stick that was just right for smacking a snow-covered tree. Down fell the snow, plop, on top of Peter's head. He thought it would be fun to join the big boys in their snowball fight, but he knew he wasn't old enough. Not yet. So he made a smiling snowman, and he made angels. He pretended he was a mountain climber. He climbed up a big, tall, heaping mountain of snow and slid all the way down. He picked up a handful of snow and another and another. He packed it round and firm and put the snowball in his pocket for tomorrow. Then he went into his warm house. He told his mother all about his adventures while she took off his wet socks. And he thought and thought and thought about them. Before he got into bed, he looked in his pocket. His pocket was empty. The snowball wasn't there. He felt very sad. While he slept, he dreamed that the sun had melted all the snow away. But when he woke up, his dream was gone. The snow was still everywhere. New snow was falling. After breakfast, he called to his friend from across the hall. They went out together into the deep, deep snow. All right, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed today's story. Let's now make our craft. This is going to be sidewalk paint. It's washable, and it's going to be kind of like sidewalk chalk, but it's going to be some paint. So if you're tired of using sidewalk chalk, you can actually use this wider variety of colors because you're just going to be using food coloring, some cornstarch, and some water. That's all you need to make this. The biggest thing to take from this is that you only need 1 drop of food coloring at a time. If you use more than that, it might stain the concrete outside. So be careful with that. You'll notice that my fingers are already a little stained from it. But the big thing to remember is that it's a 1-to-1 ratio. And the difference between this paint is that it's going to be a weirder consistency. It's going to be kind of goopy. So that way that you can spread it out a lot more. Let's go ahead and make it. So I'm going to mix mine up in a little cup. Get my cup here, and the big thing is again about a 1-to-1 ratio. I'm just eyeing this, but if you want to be a little bit more exact, absolutely. It's better to use less cornstarch than water if you kind of get to that situation. So I'm just using a little spoon that I've got here, and I'm taking our cornstarch, and I'm just gonna shave off a little bit here, and I'm gonna drop that into my cup. And that's just gonna kind of give me, I might put a little bit more in there, and that's just gonna give me an idea of how much water I want to actually put into the cup. So I've kind of got an idea of how much I want to use, and I'm gonna use another cup to mix this up. I'm just gonna measure these by putting next to it. And really it's all just kind of, you know, again, I've said it all summer long, it's all about experimentation. So stay curious and just try to figure it out as you go. So I'm gonna mix that in there. I'm gonna put just a touch more water into that. Yeah, I think that'll work. And now we're just gonna kind of mix this up. And it will feel kind of goopy. It'll feel like oobleck if you've ever made that. It'll start to feel like that, and if it's really starting to get goopy, go ahead and add just a little bit more water. You definitely want more water to cornstarch with this, but it's about a 1-to-1 ratio. Let's go ahead and just put a touch more water in there. That should be good. And again, keep experimenting with this. You've probably got a bunch of cornstarch at home that you can kind of work with. You want it to look goopy, but not be goopy. And you'll notice that, yeah, this is starting to get a good consistency. There's not too much stuck around the bottom. And if you take it and kind of drizzle it, it's kind of consistent. It kind of looks like milk, kind of pours kind of like milk. It'll feel kind of like that. It'll look like that, and it'll be good. So let's go ahead and add some color to this though. Let's go ahead and put that in there. I'm just gonna put this blue in here. And again, you just need 1 drop. And then we can mix it up from here. So let's go ahead and mix that. And this is the cool part, you'll start to see it change. And I do have a little bit of cornstarch over here on the side that I'm going to try to mix in and get it off of here. So make sure that all that's kind of together. And it'll kind of have this pastel-y kind of color maybe. I'm using, this is actually food coloring concentrate. So it's a little higher intensity than normal food coloring. That I've at least seen, and you can make a lot more colors with this one if you mix them well enough. So we've got this pretty well mixed up. Let's get this going. And it's getting all over me, but then I'm just gonna pour a little bit onto a plate. This will work well, and if it's a wax covered plate, that works even better. And you'll notice that it doesn't spread out, it just kind of sits there. It's kind of goopy. That's because of the cornstarch, and it'll actually, you know, this is even a fun little experiment that you can kind of play with. It'll kind of wash around and kind of hold its shape. I'm just gonna do a test on a sheet of paper that I've got sitting here. Let's move a bunch of stuff out of the way. I'm just gonna do a quick little test, and I'm using foam brushes, which I think are best for this. But you'll notice that it doesn't really stick super duper well, but when you spread that out, it's gonna look like this. Why don't I get some photos of this, and we're gonna go outside and we're gonna paint a little bit outside, and we can show you kind of what it looks like. Sound good? Let's show that off, and then we'll end off our video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's story and craft.